technology. I mean, we're waiting for Virgin to install our broadband, so we're running on phones at the moment, which is not very good. They're meant to be doing it tomorrow. They were meant to be doing it at the beginning of the month, and then that got screwed up. So,
well, don't start me off, and that's the wrong way to start off any sort of because I'll rage at them because it's during the whole lockdown they were playing. But anyway, we are live now, so
hey.
And I will make the only error of this show by saying that you were formerly known as the photo is how many people know you. We're here today to talk about the new brand, the new company, DCTR. So welcome, guys. How are you? You both?
Very well, thank you. Yeah, pleasure to be here, Simon. Comes really good timing for us because, as you say, we've just rebranded. To introduce who I am, I'm Tom. I'm one of the directors here at Doctor, and I'm sitting here with my dad, which is why we're not social distancing, because we're in a bubble.
You think I was going to go all Paxman and sort of start saying, throwing accusations?
Yeah, potentially happen. But yeah, this is John. John started the company Doctor Photo around 6-7 years ago, something like that.
Oh, I can't remember. It was a long time ago. But yeah. I was an estate agent for 37 years. 15 years ago, reached the point where I wanted to kill people, and so became a property photographer and photograph for Knight Frank and Savills and people like that. And then agents started sending my friends started sending me their photos that they're taking themselves and saying, can you get the skip out of this photo for me, or the other agent's board or whatever. And so I thought there might be a business here, and that's how Doctor Photo initially started, and then of course we rebranded to Doctor.
I remember that we were talking offline the other day, weren't we? About it probably shows just how long I've been in it as well, because I couldn't remember which CRM product I was trying to sell you. But in your estate agent days, but the thing I always remembered you for back then, you had a tremendous passion and love of photography, didn't you? You've always had that.
Well, I mean, for me, it was always about the house. I know that most of the property pundits talk about people, this being a people business, but then if you forget that we're actually selling houses, I think that's a fairly fundamental mistake that a lot of estate agents make. So if you talk about why it is that you should be instructed to sell a property, there are only two tangible things that you have available to you. One of those is your sold boards, and the other thing is your property marketing. Everything else is you saying, I am the best estate agent for you. You can only really show people your property marketing and your sold boards to prove that you're the best estate agent. Obviously, property photos are fundamental to that, especially in this day and age when you've got houses being sold, being shown across the world on high definition screens. So if your photos make your £60,000 kitchen look like the lower deck of Noah's Ark after a nasty storm, then you've got a bit of a problem, and you're not going to attract the right type of properties to sell. Because if you have got a £60,000 kitchen, you really want to show that off. You don't want it to be, something that is, looks terrible on your photography. It's the first impression that everybody gets of your properties.
Yeah, I mean, it seems such an obvious one to make, but again, and I don't just talk to you again offline. You have rebranded. We'll come back to that. Your website is a must-visit resource, I think, because if you can't tell within the first minute of being on your homepage why they should be talking to you, then I've missed people in this industry. The before and after photos, and I don't think you've even been as harsh as many could have been, considering the likes of Julian O'Donnell takes a lot of joy picking on some of the pictures that we see on Rightmove. You've gone for actually all right photos, and even those all right photos are dramatically changed by the different approaches and services you provide. So I think it's a really great. You've done a really great job there, as I said, and encourage everybody to have a look at their website.
Thank you.
It's just DCTR.uk, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, we were very fortunate with the. With the diet, so there aren't.
Hello, we're back. Sorry, we lost you there.
I was going to say, it's always that really awkward moment when you don't know whether it's you or somebody else.
No, it's not you, it's us.
Yeah, I get that a lot.
So because we're running off 4G at the moment, we're waiting for Virgin to come install our internet. We're in the dark ages at the moment. They're coming tomorrow, but we moved into a new office as part of the rebrand on 1st of June. So yeah, we're kind of it's interesting times, but it seems to be working. So fingers crossed it holds up. But yeah.
So I was saying, I think you were saying about the before and after photos, and you know, what we recognise is that every property that you're trying to sell as an estate agent is effectively in a beauty parade on the portals. Dare I mention Rightmove? But it's effectively on beauty parades. And so you know, the job really of the agent is to make everybody's property stand head and shoulders above everybody else's. Otherwise, you don't necessarily attract the right type of interest. And Rightmove did actually. I think I've referred to this in the notes that I sent you. Rightmove did actually have a blog, which is a number of years old now, but so the photos have dropped off of it, unfortunately. But it does suggest that if you can get really good standard photos, it can quadruple the number of inquiries that you get. So you know, it's just a no-brainer, really, to make sure that your photos are the best that they can be. And your options are to pay a pro photographer to do that. But of course, if you're doing that for a one-bedroom flat, that can be quite expensive. And you could get pro photographers to do your dear houses, or more expensive houses. But then you want your brand to be, you know, to be reflected in everything you're trying to sell. And so this is why photography is so important.
Yes, absolutely cool, and you're right. We were talking about it. I've actually posted up that Rightmove article. As I said, it's a number of years old now, but it's still relevant. As you said, 4 times more likely. Just looking at the different photos, and I think it's just such an obvious point, but it's it's why we're here today to talk about it, isn't it?
Yeah,
it should be great. Today's title is "What Great Visual Marketing Photography is Vital and How to Make It Happen." Of course, at the doctors in this group, I'm not going to give you a clap out as we do Thursday night. Could you just kind of give us an overview of the services that you do provide for agents?
Yeah, sure. So as you know, we've rebranded from Dr. Photo, but Dr. Photo remains at the heart of who we are and what keeps us going and what we believe in. So the Dr. Photo platform is what we've got, you know, circa 1,800 estate agents logging into to upload their photos, and they can choose from any number of services they wish to improve their property marketing and their visual marketing. So it's everything from what we call a facelift, which is improving that kind of the quality of the photo. So could be straightening walls, could be turning tangoed dining rooms white, could be adding blue skies if it's a really dull day. It's all about, you know, making that first impression, especially with the front elevation. That ultimately is, as Dad said, you know, you're on a beauty parade. It's making the best out of that property that you can, and that's what a facelift is about. We then kind of, I guess you can think of it as a ladder. So the next thing we can do is what we call digital surgery. So, I mean, imagine you go into a house that's got tenants. They don't particularly, they don't want to move out. They're not gonna, you know, they're not gonna tidy the kitchen. They're not gonna put the pants off the radiator. You name it, we've seen it. Literally. In fact, every Christmas for the last 3 years, we send out our top 10 funniest requests from agents, because there's some 3 horrible ones out there, but also fun ones.
I hope all those are paying due respect to GDPR.
Yeah. So we don't name them. We don't name and shame.
We don't name them.
But yeah, it's all about it could be everything from decluttering that image, and everything's photorealistic, so we're not going to be harming anything to do with consumer protection. So
yeah, we did have somebody wanting us to soil the garden, which I thought was hilarious. Soil the garden.
Yeah.
I think they meant add soil to the garden, but
I got asked this morning to place a sofa, so it was a full frontal as well, which I thought was also quite full frontal of the sofa. We're pretty sad. It's what keeps us going in the studio.
Yeah.
You got to really love it. But yeah, again, it's improving that your visual marketing, so it's presentable to people online, and so. So again, we can take out cars, take out bins, anything, you name it.
We effectively, we can make a bad photo look better, but we can make a good photo look awesome. And that's so it's very much we also teach people how to photograph properties as well, and run workshops. I have actually got one going to be going on in August set up. So hopefully that'll be. I'm sure that is allowable. We'll do all the social distancing and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You won't get lunch. You don't get lunch. We used to supply lunch, but we don't do that now. So it's about doing the very best that you can to show the house in the best possible light. And as rightly say, if you do that, you'll benefit. Also in the US, the National Association of Realtors, they do lots of studies, and there's lots of data about how much more effective good photos are compared to not so good photos. For instance, you can expect sales to be 30% faster, and perception of value to be 12% or up to 12% more. So it's not saying that the property is going to be increased in value, but the perception of value is certainly increased. And what it is saying, I think, is that it's very easy to make it so that the perception of value is actually lower than it should be. In other words, if you do make it look like the Black Hole of Calcutta, then people will think it's actually worth less than it actually is. And that's so what we're about is optimizing the value of the property, not increasing the value, but optimizing it, making sure that you get what it's actually worth. And that's so important that everybody understands that.
Yeah, and I mean, looking forward in terms of the services through our platform. So to Dad's point, optimizing a new home that's completely empty or part built, it can be quite difficult for a potential purchaser to visualize what it's going to be like. So we offer what we call virtual furnishing, so putting in photorealistic furniture and staging the property. So there's lots of data out there that says how important it is to stage a property, but that's not really possible unless you want to hire furniture. It's not possible to.
Oh, I think you bounced again.
To stage a property if there's nothing in it, and so we add that back again. So it's because it's a nightmare. So because we're running off 4G, every time someone calls us, it's going through all of the different phones at the moment. Currently 4 phones that it's dialing through, and the other 2 are on phone. So there we go, fun and games. Really sorry, Simon. But yeah, so we work with a lot of everything from one-man bands through to large property developers staging their properties virtually.
What really resonates for me is that point about many different providers can't turn 4 agents into great agents. That's just asking too much. And I think on your website again, you can't do anything with a table. But actually, that's all about really relevant.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so it's basically, so technology is great these days, but it's still not that amazing. So there's still only so much you can do. And so I guess through years and years of doing what we do, we know how we can get the best out of a photo. And the point is what Dad was saying. Ideally, if the agent is taking photos themselves, then we would like to train them. So we actually offer free Zoom training to anyone who signs up via Kerfuffle. And that's actually held personally one-to-one with John. So that's, it's always going to be a bit of a taster because it's over Zoom.
Yeah. You didn't tell me about that.
Yeah. Let's come up with it. No. Yeah. But the other thing is that, as you say, we do face-to-face training as well, safely. But yeah, coming back to Dr. Photo, just the last couple of things, I guess we call it virtual construction. There's different ways you can kind of approach it. Dad calls it the what if. So say you're selling a house with planning permission for an extension. You've had it there for 20 years. Actually, that means a heck of a lot to a large part of your customer base, your potential purchasers. Because if they're looking to expand in the next 10 years or have babies, more babies, and they're looking for something that has that potential, we can visualize it, and we're quick. We're not really that expensive for that kind of service. And actually, it's a really nice bit of ammo when it comes to your marketing, that as long as you're presenting the property as it is now, but when you're showing them around the property, you've got it kind of in terms of your marketing materials that you're carrying around, you can show them what it could look like if it was to have this extension, for example. We can visualize that really quickly.
Or what if we painted the windows grey and put red cedar up on the elevation and rendered white everything else? So we can visualize all that. What if we took up that grubby old carpet in the hall and put some nice mosaic tiles through, not mosaic, but pattern tiles, period pattern tiles, and decorated, so we can decorate interiors and we can empty the place out of furniture if it's got rough old stuff in it, and replace that with some nice new kit.
And this is where the combination of your agency expertise and the photographic expertise really comes to benefit, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I mean, we're doing stuff that, I believe that we were first into the market with the photo optimizing for the property industry. I don't think anybody else was doing that when we started. We're certainly leading the field, I believe, in this virtual construction side. Well, there are others that kind of do it, but I don't think, I've not seen anything as extensive as we're doing. We're looking across the world all the time to see what other people are up to, just in case we can nick their ideas. They've nicked ours for long enough.
I'm all over that. That's absolutely fine. Most of our watchers and listeners will agree with that as well. So I think one of the things you spoke about there, we'll touch on price a little bit later, but it is a very cost-effective way of doing things, isn't it? And given that those statistics we were talking about before, you mentioned the Rightmove one. There was also an EAT story that again talked about a number of the things. I'll post that as well later on. There can't be too many marketing suppliers or partners that for so little of an investment can have such a dramatic return on investment, though, can there?
Well, I don't think so. I know from personal experience when I've been to photograph, a house. There was one particular story I remember where my business partner Angie Waterfall asked me to go and photograph the property, and I did that. I took the details around in the evening, and I saw this lady's face drop. And I said, "Oh, is there something the matter?" And she says, "No, just the opposite." And she went off and got the details of the property that had been on the market for a year with another estate agent. The difference was, just unthinkable. And they'd made it look like a main road, but there's a nice little green in front of it with a copper beech tree framing my shot. But theirs looked like a main road. The car was outside, the garage door was open. They took it the wrong time of day, all that stuff. And what that actually meant was, back in the day before Rightmove, this was about 16, 17 years ago, we were spending anything like £1,000 a week on newspaper advertising. So they were advertising that property for a year, off and on, perhaps every month. And they're not seeing a return on it, all because they couldn't be bothered to go out and photograph it properly. Of course, we sold it in a week. But they'd been marketing it in all that time with a terrible photo. And then they achieved nothing except a bill from all their marketing.
Yeah. Well, Christian Byfield just jumped up on Facebook and said, "Morning, chaps. DCTR just did some awesome digital surgery for us, unfurnishing a heavily furnished large apartment for us. Utterly brilliant." So,
thank you.
It's nice to have such a high profile fan there from the Mr.
Yeah. I'm glad somebody's listening, Christian. That's very good.
we always thank our listeners. Don't worry about that. So, okay, we're talking about a few of the different ways here that you can help. You can essentially an outsource service. You can help them develop their own skills in house there. What other angles can you help them deliver help their services to going B2C to their own clients?
We've just added a new service with a partner called Revis, so we're not hiding anything at all. It's Revis is a pretty good service that enables the punter to do a walkthrough of a property and to change the wall colours and flooring types and place their furniture. So they can do that live online. It's not a photorealistic CGI, but it is a pretty good representation of what they can do. So that's something that we're doing.
Yeah, so it's integrated into our Doctor Photo platform. So customers can basically upload a floor plan, and we can create that model for them with Revis. It's a bit like the Minecraft of the property world. That's kind of the best way of describing it. So
I don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
He's appealing to the geek in me.
Yeah. So you can basically walk around the property, change furniture, and do all of that. To Dad's point, it's not photorealistic. So when it comes to marketing that property, brochures, in terms of the actual kind of, I guess, the visual assets, it's never going to be the same as anything that we create. But however, it's really great because it's interactive.
It's about engagement. So a good car salesman will let you open the car door and close it again because you're kind of interacting with the car. And so this is a bit, this is an opportunity for the buyer to actually walk around and say, what if we did this or what if we did that? And it gives them a pretty good representation of what else is available. The other thing that we're going to be adding soon is this, going back to the training, is video training. So this is a new venture for us. So we brought in expertise from the outside, and there's a lady called Helen, and she's going to be putting together the training package for us. And so that's being built at the moment, and I suppose we'll be launching that in about a month or two. Video is good from a creative perspective. So we're doing the tours as well. We'll be doing the tours. We edit the 360-degree JPEG tours. So we can take out tripods and that kind of stuff and pop in blue skies for those. But they're not very creative. They're more functional because you stick the camera in the middle of the room and then you get a picture and that's it. But with video, you can obviously, slide and do all sorts of neat tricks to make the property look visually more attractive. Good for larger properties. Yeah.
So I think following on from what Dad said and your question about how can we help agents beyond photos, I guess we're sort of still slightly at the early stage from the point of view that the reason we've rebranded as Doctor is not to say that we no longer care about photos or we've moved on. photos are still integral, but we feel that we can take our model and apply it to lots of other sort of functions that estate agents can sort of outsource and do internally. So, to Dad's point, videography, 360s,
graphic design,
and so our team is expanding, and actually we feel that technology is there these days that the agent can do a lot of it themselves, and they don't necessarily have to pay good money to get people in to do it. And so rather like our model that Dad said is like taking a bad photo, making it good photo awesome, we think we can apply that to a lot of other products as well, and that's what we're doing. That's why we've called ourselves Doctor.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. And what do you say to those agents that you have to try and convince? I can't believe I'm asking, but why is it so important? Why should agents care about this?
Well, it's their bottom line. At the end of the day, every negotiator wants to earn commission, every estate agent wants to earn commission, and they should care about it for the reasons I said earlier, that it's the only tangible, one of two tangible things that you can actually show people, and so they can touch, they can see the property marketing that you produce, and that's a good reason for somebody to instruct you. As I say, nobody wants their house to look terrible in the photos, unless I would say, actually, I say nobody. Actually, probably 80% of people don't know the difference. There's 20% who do, I reckon, who are visually sophisticated enough to know why a photograph isn't so good. There are a lot of people who will, accept, like the lady I was talking about earlier, their house being on the market for a year with bad photography, and you've got to ask yourself why that is, and it's because they don't know the difference. And so, there is, if you are somebody who's doing good photography, it's something that you really need to shout about, and you need to shout about the Right Move stats and the National Association stats and all the other stats as well. You've got to be able to, explain to the vendor why it's important. If you do explain to the vendor, there's a guy down in Sussex called Cooper Adams.
Yeah, Sean, yeah.
Yeah, Sean. He's a good guy. I've known him for years. He came on a workshop with me, and I think he's kind of grown his business almost on the back of being able to do something that the other estate agents aren't doing. So if you're an estate agent who cares, then that's very clear when it comes to your property marketing. If you really do care about getting the best price of the vendor, that comes through with what you're doing with your property marketing. If you don't care, then it's obvious. If you've got a living room with an ironing board and it's sitting in the middle of it, then or a cat litter tray, or the washing up in the sink, then it's very clear that you don't care, and that you're not doing the best job for the vendor. But
you have the attention to detail point clearly, have you there? And look, Christian makes the point again. You can see on screen. As agents, we are all become property media companies. As such, all of those assets in all places should embrace that viewpoint of quality. The quality approach has to be, doesn't it? I think, look, there's a growing thought process that because we can do things like for example, do webinars very easily with Zoom and things like that. There's a realness to kind of that approach, but there's still absolutely, it needs to be said, where for when it is portraying something as important as the brochure and your images online, there really can't be any second level, second class quality to it, can there?
It's got to be first class. The brochures aren't as important these days, except obviously you're going to take those out and try and secure instructions from vendors. But the online is desperately important.
Yeah, so I think so. They say a picture's worth 1,000 words, don't they? Traditionally, now I think you could probably say a picture's worth 1,000 impressions. And ultimately, if your visual marketing's poor,
very good.
Thank you. I've just come up with that.
You've been testing that out back.
Thinking about that one. But it's true. And when I one of my first ever internships during uni was working for an ad agency, And I always remember we were working with Licorice All Sorts, and they spent £50,000 on a photographer to take a photo of a licorice all sort.
Still can't disguise the taste.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
But I just always found that incredible, and it's always stuck with me that granted they're selling millions of them every day, but that licorice all sorts worth about 0.001 penny.
Yeah.
And you've still got guys taking bad photos, poor marketing of something that's worth £1.5 million. This day and age, I think it's so easy to differentiate yourself by having great marketing. And from my point of view, I think that that agents should be thinking of themselves as, to Christian's point, being a media agency, they are a marketing agency. They're not just a sales agency. And there's so many consultants out there who deal in sales. But actually, when it comes to marketing, I think that there's so many exciting things they can do. There's to fix the basics, but also try and take it that one step further and paint that dream for your target purchaser.
Sorry. I was just going to say a couple of things coming from what Thomas just said there. One of the first things I explain to negotiators and agents when they come on a workshop is that you're in the property marketing and sales business. Most agents think of themselves as in property sales, which of course you are, but it's marketing and sales. If you can get that in your head, then that helps. And you've got to ask yourself why Kellogg's cornflakes come in brightly coloured boxes, not brown paper bags. But houses, you see them with washing up in the sink on Rightmove. It's just, it says that those agents don't really care, or they're bothered about this box shifting.
Do you think the quality of agents' photos is better now than it was, say, 10 years ago? Or
it is getting better, and I'd like to think that's partly because of our evangelizing. I must have taught over 2,000 agents now through National Association to do it for property market and also do it for on our own in our own basis. I've taught a couple of thousand agents, and there comes a point, I think, when the competitors look at. I remember this with floor plans. Back in the day when floor plans were coming in, there were people who were saying, "Why are we using those?" And then, of course, floor plans got introduced by one or two agents in the town, and then suddenly everybody else had to have them because vendors are saying, "I want this, and I want floor plans." Yeah. It's the same with photography. There will come a tipping point one day when everybody has to do really excellent photography. And I think we're actually coming up to that. We are getting better, but we're nothing like as good as Australia or New Zealand. If you look at the quality of their marketing, it's they're doing a lot better job than us as an industry. We want to help our customers to get to that kind of standard, and we can if they let us.
Do you think, just on that point, because that is, we're fairly obsessed with the Aussies on this show and on the podcast. Obviously, one of the main reasons that quality is so high there is because the vendors do pay for it with the VPA, the vendor paid advertising. Do you think that we will ever get back to that scenario where people can justify paying extra for the quality photo service?
We've got lots and lots of examples of agents who are taking professional standard photography. They can do that quality. It's just the technique that they need. And if they know the technique and they repeat it several times, it's a bit like learning to drive a car. So when you get into a car, you depress the clutch, put the gear forward, start releasing the clutch, depress the accelerator, and the car moves forward. With photography, it's very much like that. You have to practice the settings, and once you do that half a dozen times around your own house, you will be able to do it and achieve a professional standard photo, provided you do exactly what I tell you to do. And if you go off piste, then you end up somewhere terrible. You have to go through that understanding process, and then you can go off piste, and do the black run later on. But you have to be satisfied.
Get the basics right before you start.
Yeah, get the basics right. Learn what you're doing, and then just do those things. Begin to understand. Penny drops, and then you're off, and you can do all kinds of creative stuff.
Christian, who's on fire this morning, is asking, do you guys offer service to deliver photos in all different social media formats and sizes?
Yeah.
If this is a new product line, it's counting as a referral. Is that something you want to call up, or is that something you
all of our, for example, our photos are delivered in different format sizes. But in terms of social media formats, so actual different apertures, probably something that we may have to look at.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, we they're optimized. So we have, when we deliver photos back, customers can download them in the original size, in a Rightmove optimized size or a portal optimized size, and then there are two smaller sizes as well, if they want them as thumbnails or whatever. So that's automated. That's actually built into the system.
Yeah, but I guess taking it that one step further.
Yeah, I mean, if people said they wanted,
what I would say is, like with us, for example, we're a studio, and so
we're very flexible.
So literally
whatever our customers want, we generally build it.
Yeah, exactly. So we're not sort of, you don't just upload your photos and it goes into this weird sort of sphere and then no one deals with it. Everything is handmade. And so when you put in for example, everything from the simplest product, the facelift, there are advanced settings if you are really keen. Actually, when you upload that photo, you can ask for different crop sizes. So
he's just saying they're putting a huge emphasis on social media now, asking using and other bits. Anyway, you've got your first client there if you want to, in terms of that service.
Yeah. I think let's talk after this about how we can help you out. Yeah.
So can I just ask then? So how can agents then improve their visual marketing then, just in general? Give us a few pointers.
Well, generally you have to start at the basics. If they really want to improve, then first of all, they can do a Zoom meeting with me, free.
Yep.
I will talk through with them the settings that they need to use on the camera, and the equipment they need. If they go to my own website, which is hello-photo.co.uk, they'll see the interior photos there were all taken without flash. It's all using ambient lighting, but it's all using a tripod. It sounds horrific, but actually it's much easier than trying to get it right with flash, because with flash, what invariably happens is you end up pointing the flash in different directions and lighting up one part of the room, not the other part of the room, all that kind of stuff. So using ambient light is the answer to that. And it basically means you can put your tripod down, take the photograph, pick the tripod up and move it to another location. So it's a process that you can do almost without thinking. All you're doing is deciding where you're going to put the photo, but where you're going to put the tripod, and taking the photograph and moving it on to the next location, not faffing around and just moving on. And so it's a very quick process as well.
Yeah.
And I can talk them through how to do that through a Zoom session, and then fill out the details, more details, in a workshop.
So I think, and to Dad's point, I think so you've kind of got like the basics. So you could think of it as like a bronze, silver, gold in terms of how you approach your visual marketing and how we might be able to help you. So everything from getting that really great photo from the first point of view, dealing with what's in front of you. So first of all, great photo of dishes in a sink. That's fantastic. It looks really great. Next level up would be, we can take that sink, we can empty the sink, we can make the kitchen presentable for you, and something like that could be 5-6 quid. It's not expensive. It's definitely worth, if you're gonna, compared to your time having to take the stuff out, we might as well do it for you. The next level up could potentially be, well, okay, this kitchen actually doesn't look that great in a £2.5 million house. Now, clearly from consumer protection point of view, you're going to want to sell that kitchen. However, when you're showing people around, we can actually visualize what it would look like with a decent brand new kitchen, and we can put in bifold doors for you, and we can knock down walls, And we've got, for example, really great examples. You can see if you go to our case studies on our website, there was an estate agent that we met at the EA Masters about 3 years ago who came up to us and said, "You earned us 12.5 grand commission." It's quite nice. And thinking back, the story was that he actually took on a property that had been on the market for a year or so, hadn't it? And it was a £1.5 million flat in Brighton. Expensive top end, but the kitchen was pokey. It was pretty awful. And so what he wanted to do, and actually how he took the property on, was he promised to the vendor that he could visualize what it would look like if you were to take down a wall and put a kitchen
he
into
promised that we could visualize that.
that we could visualize it.
We could take down 2 walls and build a CGI kitchen in the next room.
And the brief was, think of the purchaser as a footballer, basically. It was as simple as that. He wanted to speak to footballers, and he wanted to show what it would look like with a kitchen, really nice new kitchen in this much bigger space, opening everything up. And he used it, and it worked. So not only did he take on the vendor, but he sold the property, and he made 12.5 grand commission, basically, from off the back of it.
There is another way we can help as well. We've got a little, an assistance thing which is available online called, you go to firstimpressions.showdeck.co.uk. Now, this is something that you can give or send to your customers before you actually go to the property. And what it does is it explains to them in words of one syllable that if they actually bother to tidy the house before you get there, then it's going to make a difference to the perception of value that people have for their property. Now, I just thought of this, I hope you don't mind, but normally we charge 75 quid to brand this document to estate agents, and we also host it online so that you can send an email to the customer as well if you want to. Anybody listening to this, if they contact us within, say, the next 7 days, we'll do it for 45 quid. So this would be fully branded and hosted by us, and it would be something that you can send off to customers, your clients, potential clients. You can have some printed if you want and show how much you care about them and how different you are to other estate agents who aren't going to bother about doing that kind of stuff. And the problem is, if you turn up and you've got all this rubbish, say you've got toothbrushes in the bathroom, well, you're going to have to ask the owner to move all that stuff. Because you can't nowadays. There was a time when you would go around moving all that stuff. So you need to be able to say to people, actually, it's your job to repair the property.
Or we can do it digitally. So like Christian says, so letting agents, we've got lots of letting agents that use us exactly for that. So kitchens, lounges, everything. Because tenants don't care, and rightly say they may not want to move out. And
it just makes that point again, isn't it? You can see tidying up being huge for letting agents. Biggest battle is shooting occupied property, which can be cluttered and messy. And also, fantastically for you, well done for thinking on your feet there, John. It sounds like I'd have been surprised if Christian hadn't jumped on this one, by the way, but he's all over that. So what we'll do is we'll post the links up later as well, so that people can have a look.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you for thinking about that. Look, we're a sucker here for a list of football. Can you give us an idea, 5 things agents can do straight away to help improve their photos? I know it's a bit cheeky asking you for a bit of free consultancy, but I've never been afraid to be cheeky.
Okay, well, the first thing is to get the property prepared well, because you can turn up and you can make a technically fantastic photo, but if it's of their crap, then you've got a bit of a problem. Second thing would be to use a tripod, because if you're using the other settings that I'm going to suggest you use, is going to mean that you're going to have a slow shutter speed. And if you have a slow shutter speed, then you're going to get blurry photos. You should use a low ISO. So if you don't know what that is, then you're going to have to Zoom me. or I, will do the Calendly thing and book a time for me to spend an hour with you. ISO effectively affects the quality of your images. So if you have a sort of consumer type camera and you're using a high ISO, what you're going to get is something in the photograph called noise, which is little speckles of color where there should be black. You're going to get color, and these make your photographs look slightly blurry and soft. You should use an aperture of f8 with your wide angle lens. F8 is a good safety net. It will give you a deep depth of field, so everything from here to over there will be sharp. And give us another one, Steve.
Use us.
Oh, use us. Yeah, that's right. That's good. Use us to optimize photos, because about 20%, 30% of a great photo is what happens in post. You have people in these fashion studios spending a day on one picture, and so we've got the property photography down to fine art, and we know what we're doing, and we do literally thousands of them. I don't know, my wife doesn't actually talk to me now because I'm sitting there at night with a cold towel wrapped around my head, taking out clothes.
Is it an art or a science, or is it a blend of both?
It's a bit of both, but it's very much art. You've got to have an eye. You've got to know, if you're taking something out, you've got to know where the join's going to be. If something's being hidden, if the join is being hidden by it, you've got to know where all that's going to be.
I mean, software's pretty great these days. So Photoshop, there's elements of it that is AI, but it's still not that great. So it's still not going to know what's behind something.
There's no AI doing what we're doing.
Well, absolutely. But I mean, in terms of, we're quick because Photoshop is powerful.
And also because he works until 2 o'clock in the morning.
But you need to know, but you need to know what you're doing with it. And
I suspect that work, it doesn't feel like work though, doesn't it, when you do something you love like that?
No, it doesn't. No, I mean, it makes up for years of Excel spreadsheets and PowerPoint presentations. Actually, we're quite lucky doing this job because it is an art, and actually, I also really enjoy looking at people's houses. So I'm sure that loads of guys.
You said that in a way that doesn't sound seedy, which I like.
I mean, I do get occasionally asked to take down some interesting photos off the wall. Let's leave it there. In bedrooms.
Christian's just jumped in with this one as well. Do you guys prefer RAW images to work with? I'm guessing you do, don't you? Or does it?
No, JPEGs. Okay. When I first started into this on a professional basis, I attended the Canon photography course. Yeah. About 25 photographers there, and there were photos around the room that were A0 size photos, and they said, tell us which of those were taken with RAW and which were taken with JPEG. Nobody got it right. All pro photographers. And nobody could see the difference. Where RAW is helpful is if you've got a white sky with some detail and clouds in it, and you want to capture that detail. If you want to capture that in one photo, then that's help. That's the 12:35 going past, 11:49 going past.
I mean, rarely do we deal with RAW. Occasionally we might do if it's a large developer that are blowing it up and putting it onto a big billboard. But to be honest, with JPEG, it's a bit lossy and compressive, but it's actually when it comes to online and brochures, it's fine.
You touched on skies, didn't you? And look, you mentioned as well, quite honestly, there were other services around there, and some of them are more automated than others. The blue sky thing's a classic example there, isn't it? Where you can go wrong quite quickly with by literally just putting on a blue sky, which doesn't fit. I think on your website again, you talk about that really clearly, really eloquently about the importance of getting that blue sky service right.
Yeah, we're trying to get it as natural as possible. So that's not just about the sky. It's often as well about the actual photograph that's taken. So If you've got a photograph that's taken in very cloudy conditions, then you're going to get a blue overcast, a blue color cast to the elevation of the house. And so you have to try and balance that by warming up the house and so that it matches the warmth of the sky, or the blueness of the sky. You wouldn't expect to see a blue overcast or color cast to an elevation where you have a bright blue sky.
The other thing is, it's amazing. Everyone's, we've got so many customers with different wants and needs when it comes to skies. People really care about their sky. So some customers who like it really, really vivid, and other customers that want it the palest blue. So again, that's, I guess, we're a studio. We know our customers really well, and so they don't even have to ask anymore, because generally after we've done it wrong the first few times, we've got it right. But often if a customer is really specific, when they join us, then they can send us examples, and then we kind of keep them on the account. So when we're working, we know exactly what they're after. And I guess the benefit for them is that keeps the consistency in their windows, in their online presence, on their website. There's nothing worse than seeing kind of, this has no sky, this has sky, this is really vivid. And, so it's really nice that we can keep that visual marketing consistent across everything they do.
And talking about just marketing in general, I mean, other than taking a great photo, what else can agents be doing with their visual marketing to differentiate themselves for vendors and better market the properties?
So I've talked about it before, but with what we call the what if service, with the virtual construction, we call it, we have a really nice sort of group. It's bigger than a handful, but it's a really nice group of return customers that basically use us as their, I don't know the best way to describe it, secret bullet. Yeah. That I guess they must be going out to clients and basically selling this service. So, like I said, if a property has a load of potential, then why not just visualize it? At the end of the day, it's not going to be a huge percentage in terms of that the commission that you're going to earn in the long term. And not only will it actually look great online and make your brand look better, but hopefully it should help sell that property as well. And our customers use it as a really nice differentiator in their local towns. They must do, because I mean, most of our trade is repeat when it comes to those services.
I can imagine.
So literally, we can be painting front elevations white render, which is pretty much 99% of what people ask for these days. We can be taking out old furniture. If it's an elderly couple, we can put stuff back in. So to Christian's point, more expensive property, the more lifestyle is a key selling point. So absolutely. So when a client uploads some photos for our virtual furnishing service, they can either give us some photos to match, so that could be a previous development, or we've actually created over 150 templates which they can then choose from. So they can choose a Scandi look, Scandi look lounge, for example. There's loads of filters, and it filters down these 150 templates to say 10 different sort of bedrooms. And we can then create that bedroom, that furniture, basically inside their photo. And so it's like really nice. It brings the customer along on the journey as well as in their vendor, because once they've selected what furniture they want, we then create a mood board. That's done within 24 hours. It's branded to them. They can then send it to their vendor and say, hey, what do you think about this? And they can say, well, I was hoping it'd be a bit more luxury at market. And then we'll work with them. And then once we've got the mood board agreed, we'll then create the render for them. So it's really nice value added service that's really bespoke to that agent. And I think adds value, not just great images, but great kind of journey, customer journey for the vendor.
And we've also got other stuff that can help them stand out, day to dusk, which is, so taking a daytime photograph, perhaps of a property that wouldn't look very nice during the day, and making it an evening shot with a nice red sky in it.
They look fantastic, those. They, with the right property, as you said, it's a really, the Aussies do that particularly well, don't they?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. And so do we.
Yeah.
But
the benefit with the Aussies is they're amazing kind of sea views. I mean, you're right.
Sea views, yeah.
There are some properties, you know.
You can't put Ayers Rock on a property in Manchester, can you?
Yeah.
and also, you know, one or two little, I don't know, funky things like adding snow to photographs. So you want to do something a bit unusual.
We do literally hundreds of snow photos at Christmas. I mean, yeah, you could argue it's a bit gimmicky, but I guess they're doing it for email campaigns with their vendors. They're doing it to stand out on Rightmove when everyone's really festive over that couple of week period. And yeah, I mean, like, we love it. I've actually got one person in our studio dedicated to snow photos. They're literally doing.
He's known as Mr. Snow, is he? Mr. Snow.
Mr. Snow. She's probably.
Oh God, you got me on a whole sexist. You got me on a whole sexist thing. I'm going to be in trouble now.
Yeah, you want to know.
You know, you talk gimmicky actually, but what's interesting is most people's favourite photos when you look at them on Facebook tend to be the wintry ones. Obviously, when we have been lucky enough to have it, those are the ones that resonate in people's minds. So it's only natural if you're thinking about this place for your future or something like that. You want to imagine yourself in there, don't you, on a nice winter's night?
Yeah, definitely, and it works also really well with new homes. So if you're selling a little development and you're sending out an email to customers over the Christmas period, ready for January, Mrs. Snow.
I've been doing Snow, so hello, Mrs. Snow. I apologise for gender alignment.
Yeah. Hi, Rach. Yeah, absolutely, and it keeps your images consistent with the rest of your campaign. So if you've got a whole campaign based around this Christmas period and you're doing this big thing in January, this big launch, then the worst thing you could do is have this picture of this house from the summertime. You know,
and they do look really good, and they look very realistic.
Yeah, we do it in a realistic way. Yeah, it's not cartoony.
Rachel, Mrs. Snow does them. They're very realistic.
Great. Guys, you spoke a lot about value. You've spoke about, obviously, kind enough alluded to it now. Can we just talk about the deal that you're going to be kind enough to do for, obviously, our kerfuffle members? I mean, there's a few different aspects to it. John, you've been really, really kind to say that, obviously, you'll offer a Zoom session as well. Could you just elaborate on that on the rest of the deal?
Yeah, definitely. So anyone that signs up via kerfuffle will get their facelift photos for 90p for the first month. So right now we offer photos for 90p, but you've got to send in 250. So there's quite a huge, well, not a huge, but if you're a one-man band, then it's not so easy to hit 250. But we're offering it to everyone that signs up via kerfuffle. Can
I just add to that? If you're a one-man band and you introduce your mates, perhaps somebody in another town or something like that, and if between you get 250, then going forward after the first month, you'll continue to get them for 90p as long as you're paying by direct debit. Because otherwise, my lovely wife, who's our financial director, has to phone people up, and of course the number of lost invoices there are, you wouldn't believe. So we very much like direct debit, and so therefore we give that discount for direct debit customers.
Yeah. So exactly. So I did us a disservice. So you can join a network. So we've got quite a few different networks. There's also a Stephen Brown network as well. So if you're part of his network, then all of your volume is combined, and actually it's really easy to hit.
London office, Mayfair office, so we combine the volumes. Property Guild hasn't hasn't acknowledged us yet, so but I think we're doing it anyway for Property Guild.
But with being a kerfuffle member, you don't have to worry about signing up to any of those networks. You get it instantly when you sign up. And the other thing that we're offering is a 1 hour free Zoom session with John.
Oh yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah.
Well, you're gonna do that thing that makes me love you even more, the self-deprecation thing. But
I chunter on for a good hour and tell people what settings to use.
It's worth a lot.
I think it is. It genuinely is.
got about 28 5-star reviews on Google, largely as a result of those. So
I was going. Do you know what? I was, even though we are a review site, I was going to accept that Google is a thing, and I did on your website. Yeah, that's really, really impressive. I would say as well, big friend of the show, obviously today, Christian Byfield. One of the reviews I was going to read out was from Anne McDean from Megan Baker. Your 5-star on Kerfuffle as well rated at the moment. It says, your service is second to none, and we continue to be very grateful for your help in perfecting the pictures that need a bit of help on these dull days, or where we forgot to move the bins. Not that we can do that anymore. Thank you so much for brightening our skies with rainbows. So that's a lovely one there. So what I would say, you've been really lovely today, but get on Kerfuffle and give these guys a review, because I think they'd appreciate it.
Oh, yeah, we would. Yeah, much appreciated.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah,
and indeed, of course, anybody else who wants to do that. I like coming to the end of the show because Mrs. Snow has accepted my apology, so that's good. Christian quite rightly said, "Don't let him off this easy." But guys, I want to say thank you to you very much. I am really impressed with the new rebrand. I'm sure that's going to go down tremendously well with everybody else. Just jumped on and said he's going to do it. So fantastic.
Okay, DCTR.co.uk.
DCTR.co.uk, and we will share all those other resources as well out there. We've got Paul going. Was going to say the DCR team looked like Mumford and Sons. As I said, we have an eclectic audience here. But thank you, Paul. Dom and John, thank you very much. It's great to see a Game of Thrones style thing going on here with the family thing. I really, really like that. I buy into it. Thanks for joining us on the show, and thanks very much for your offer as well.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everybody. Bye.
Yeah.
God bless.
Cheers, guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.